Bones Post Show. Here's your host, Bobby Bones.
For the record, this will be the last time we play the post show song. Remember, we're just going to do normal. We explained. Eddie, you weren't here.
Forever and ever?
Well, it's just going to be part 3 of the podcast. So
hey, this song was good for while it lasted.
It was good while it lasted, but it's not. There's just stuff we want to get to on the regular show, and if you're listening to the podcast, it doesn't matter when you hear it, if it's not live or not. So it'll just be part 3 of the show from now on, because there are things, and I have like 8 things I want to talk about, which I knew I would not have time to talk about during the regular show. What do you think about the helicopter thing now? Helicopter airplane. Any new thoughts?
I've tried to avoid looking at anything because it's so terribly sad to watch it. They keep saying, oh, here's a new angle. And I'm like, how many angles do we need? I don't need to see any more angles.
That's what I don't understand about social and putting up a video like
come
that.
on.
Is like, why is there not a warning or a countdown 10, like here, we're about to show you something? Because it's not like we're watching something. It's just really difficult to process. There's humans inside of there, and this is so like.
Here's your answer.
Okay.
To be on television, which is publicly owned, but they have to say, we're going to show you this. But there's no rules on social media.
I know.
I mean, so why would they? And most people want to see that. That's why they get.
Do they?
Yes. Look at the streams they're getting. Those videos are getting millions and millions and millions of streams.
Well, because okay.
No, I mean, that's the answer, is that most people are watching. Because if they put up those videos and it gets like 10 streams, it's not going to get replicated and the videos aren't going to get stolen and used somewhere else. Like sensational videos, even if we don't agree with how they're shot, and that is different than somebody being, although we did see the Luigi shoot video as well on social media.
Yeah, and that was really making me mad.
Right. But again, you're asking why and how. There aren't near as many rules on social media as there is public airwaves, which is owned by the government. There are rules there. There are no rules. People want to see these videos or they wouldn't continue to exist in so many places. So it could be weird for you, but people are drawn to that stuff. It's like a car crash. Rubbernecking is a term because people want to see car crashes and they slow down driving by one.
I mean, it's a weird thing to say though, but like sometimes when I see a video like that, it makes it real to me. When you read it, it's kind of like, oh, wow, somebody got shot, or, oh, man, there's a plane crash. But when you see it, you're like, oh, my gosh.
Oh, I don't
like
need to see
visually,
it. I don't need to see it.
And I've avoided it, too. I'm just saying this is why, and this is why it's allowed, and why it's continued to post.
I get it. I'm just like on social media trying to figure out what my friends are up to, and then I'm like, oh, gosh, now I'm watching it again.
You can take words and go to your settings. Anything that says helicopter, it won't show you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there are ways to get around it. I do it during the election a lot of times because I don't want my feed to be all election stuff.
I somehow managed to miss that Luigi video.
I saw it one time and then I was able to miss it because I knew what I was looking for. So anything that said Luigi, I just I don't want to see the shooting part of it. So anybody have any new theories? You see where and again, here's the part that gets tricky because there's so much disinformation out there. Where I was reading someone go, the pilot only had 500 hours, but that was actually the co-pilot.
But 500 is a lot.
But again, that was the co-pilot. It wasn't even the main pilot who had thousands of hours, who was training the co-pilot who had a lot of hours, is my point.
Oh, are you talking about the helicopter pilot?
Yes.
Or the okay.
Yes.
But, okay.
But my point was that would be a bit of disinformation in that it's not wrong information, but they're going, this pilot only had 500 hours. Of course, they were but no, they were the co-pilot, and the actual pilot had over 1,000 hours. So it wasn't wrong. Like the best, we'll say mistruths, often have a bit of truth in them. Because there's just enough right about it that you're like, oh, wow, I need to spread this on social media. Because they weren't wrong. There was one of the pilots that had 500 hours and was training.
And I say that, I mean, I get that 500 is on the lower end and he's training, but I guess that's when, like, my ex-husband who's a pilot, like if I've ever flown with anybody else, like in any way, shape, or form, or if he's ever going to get into the plane with anybody else as a pilot, he's like, I want them to at least have 500 hours. Like that's the milestone.
And they were using that as, this is why. Why is this pilot here doing this? When they left out the part that wasn't the pilot with the most hours in the helicopter. So there's so much disinformation that I still go, wait, what's up with all the Russians?
On the plane?
Yeah. A lot of Russians, more than I thought.
It's more than just the Olympic
I thought there were more than
skaters?
just those two.
I did not know that.
I mean, I could be wrong. That's what.
I only saw the.
If
I mean, I don't know the full manifest, but
well, if you guys don't have any theories, I'll move on because then we're just like
Do
grasping.
you have a
no.
theory?
I mean, I feel like I've
Not a
like,
good one because every time I looked on, I would see the helicopter lifted off from like this the Saudi that house owned by the Saudis, and then what? So there's all of that, and so my theories would be based on like half information.
I didn't hear about that.
I mean, of course, I have crazy thoughts in my head, but then I'm like, it's all just, it's from me watching too much TV.
Mike, what'd you see over there?
I just see the 2 Russians.
Okay, see,
Uh-huh.
there you go. If it's only 2 Russians,
The ice skating Olympians,
Mhm.
that were married and coaches.
did you ever watch?
Cutting Edge.
No, what the heck's that?
Ah, it's a great movie, dude. Where
About
like
what?
2
Ice
figure
skating?
skaters, they fall in love.
No. I was thinking of
Blades of Glory.
no,
It's a good
no,
one, too.
no. Carrie Russell's in it. The spies.
Oh, the Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're living in America for a
Yes.
long time.
Yeah.
And they're spies the whole time.
Of course, I had those thoughts.
And you root for them.
You
The-
root for them in a certain.
Yeah, you bond with them. They're like anti-heroes. But you start to bond with them and like root for them in that you root for their personal lives and you get to know them as people. And all of a sudden you're like, dang, I kind of like them. But the story is presented that way. It's like rooting for a mob boss in The Sopranos. Like you really wouldn't root for a mob boss in real life because he's killing people, but because of the presentation of the angle of the show, you're rooting for the Carrie Russell and the Americans like you're rooting for a mob boss in The Sopranos, knowing it's fiction. But they're basically sleeper cell. And that was partly based on the true story of Russian sleeper agents who were arrested in the United States in 2010.
There you go.
Whoa.
The show was inspired by the real-life couple Elena Vavilova and Andrei Bezarukov. The agents were part of a spy ring called the Illegals Program. The agents had been living in the United States for decades, and many of them had children, friends, and neighbors who didn't know they were spies. After a prisoner exchange, the agents were returned to Moscow and awarded for their actions. Dang, they got let go because of prisoner exchange. The show was set in the 80s during the Cold War, and it is a slow show, but it's one of the slow shows I would say, as long as you know it's slow going in, you're really going to enjoy it. But you do root for them. Not because they're from Russia, but because
You're following
it's
their
their
story.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're supposed to root for them. Like, there really aren't any shows where the main person's bad and it follows only the bad people and you're supposed to not like everything they're doing. There are shows where there are bad people that it shows their perspective. And so, like, I would say The Sopranos is a version of that, is the anti-hero, bad dude doing bad things, but because you also see the good things they do and what their heart really says and nobody really feels like they're the villain, you go, I'm really rooting for you, Mr. Soprano. What was his name?
Tony?
Yeah.
Tony.
Yeah.
Guys.
I think the greatest anti-hero of all time had the rings with all the colors.
Thanos.
Guy had it.
Who?
It's Avengers
Yeah,
Oh.
Avengers.
I think Morgan very much disagrees with me on this one.
on Thanos.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't like him ever.
You don't know his perspective.
I don't think up until really Avengers Endgame, where you get more character from him, I don't think I rooted for him until and then the end. But I still like you had all the Avengers coming together. It was really hard to root for him.
Yes, because you were an Avenger from the side of the Avengers. Just imagine this guy. He knew Earth was going to die because of overpopulation. And I'm not even saying that I would have chose his side, but let's just talk it out here. And please correct me if I become factually inaccurate about Thanos. For the planet to succeed, he had to basically combine the rings and half the people die. Otherwise, everybody was going to die.
Yeah, run out of resources.
Yes,
So he's a bad guy because he wants to kill half the people with a single push,
and it's because it happened to his planet. That's where it's coming from, the origin.
which trauma on and to him. He saw it. His whole planet died. And so he's here on Earth. My theory has always been if you did the Thanos story, you could make the Avengers easily be the bad guys because they're the ones trying to kill all of Earth because they don't want him to take a difficult measure in order to save the planet.
I think where it comes into play that it's difficult is because it was so extreme. Was there any other options considered? I think that's where everybody struggles with him is that it was so blatantly like we're just going to kill half of these people.
They also made him ugly, which this is what movies will do, make the bad guy ugly.
Yeah.
But even in the Penguin, and if you guys haven't watched it on HBO, it's great. And it's not superhero-y. There's no
like
superhero
a
stuff.
mafia show.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to just see that version of the Penguin from Batman's story, and Batman's not in it, you would go, Penguin's bad. But when you see how he grew up, what happened, how his family died, the hard decisions he had to make because he was living in poverty, you go, oh man, I kind of felt that. Like that sucks, and I don't agree with this or that, but I understand where the person comes from.
That's
Man,
like Breaking Bad.
yeah.
That was crazy.
You're rooting for a freaking meth dealer who's murdering people.
Yep.
And the only reason you're not is because the only reason you are is because at first he's a nice teacher who has to make a tough decision.
He's trying to help his family.
So same with the Americans. Yeah, you end up rooting for them in that show, and they're Russians, but you're just rooting for the show. Ugh. And so on that flight, we're for sure they're the only two.
From what I searched, yeah, 2.
They didn't have any handlers. Because
Didn't see any other Russians.
mostly we see handlers on stuff. Yeah, that sucks. I did see a story that was from a legitimate place that, oh no, it was from a former Black Hawk pilot who worked for the government, was in the military, said the helicopter, in his opinion, saw the other plane on the other side of him when they were saying, hey, do you see the
It
plane?
was a different plane.
And it was the wrong, he identified the plane, but it was the wrong plane.
The one that was taking off, not landing.
Yes, and that hit him.
And then what did they say about their night vision goggles that actually could have?
I didn't hear anything about that.
Oh. Well, I guess some people are like, oh, they were wearing them, but it actually could have impacted what they could see.
In my heart, I hope it was not any.
Just an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you hope it wouldn't happen at all, but it has happened, and so really, but it's that with the fires and with that, there's been a few, all the drones.
Oh,
There's
New
just been-
Orleans.
New Orleans. There's been a lot of the car that blew up outside of Vegas.
Yeah, like this month has been.
So once this is
Hard.
all this starts happening around each other, naturally, even if you're not connecting them, they're connected to you because they've all happened around the same time, and you're going another one. Something must be going on. I'm sorry if I interrupted you. Were you saying
No,
something?
it's okay. I feel like the hardest thing for me that's to grasp all of this is that it was just 100% preventable. Like this didn't have to happen. When you see all the experts talking about it and stuff, like this could have been avoided. And I think that's what makes it so hard reading everything. And you want to come up with other ways because if it was preventable, then why did it happen? That's at least how it kind of feels to me when I'm seeing all of it.
Will you look, Mike, last thing about this helicopter, because again, I don't want to get into things we for sure don't know. Will you look and see if there is, from any site that has any credibility, where the helicopter lifted off from?
They got the black boxes.
Do they know what the helicopter was doing? Like, was it trying to land at the airport?
From what I know, they were in a training mission.
Okay.
And they were in a training mission in space where there were a lot of planes, because you have to train in that space because you have to often fly where there are a lot of planes.
You mean like the airspace, like what the feet level or whatever?
Just in general in that spot. I don't know
Okay.
about elevation, altitude, whatever it is. And if there's nothing about it, Mike, all good. We'll move on from it. An Army helicopter.
Let's see. The top busiest airspaces in the United States: Atlanta, Dallas, Denver, LA, Chicago,
It
and
was flying above
Reagan.
permitted altitude.
Flying above.
Yeah, I saw
The
something
military
about
Black Hawk helicopter that crashed into a passenger plane near Reagan National Airport Wednesday. So this is a pretty current story. Appears to have been flying above the permitted altitude. Publicly available flight data analyzed by CBS News shows. The data point is one of the several key mysteries. So that's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
If it's above where it's supposed to be, and you know it's above where it's supposed to be because you have the tools in front of you and nothing is wrong or messed up, that's kind of weird.
But I think it was above by like a little, like almost kind of at that threshold level of where you can't pass this altitude. They might have been just a little bit above it. Because and
Do you
these,
even get near it?
I
I
don't know.
mean, if you're in congested airspace, I would think you don't even get near the ceiling.
And the airlines, they literally just plug in a number, and that flight path is just automatic. Autopilot takes them through that path to land.
Data from Flight Radar 24, which tracks and records aircraft data for most flights across the U.S., showed the helicopter's last estimated altitude was about 400 feet when it crashed. The jet's altitude was about 375 to 400.
And what's the maximum altitude? of that?
200. I think.
200. Oh, it's double.
Oh, okay, so that's a lot. Wow. Dang.
That's the part, again, that hits me a little weird, is that is so abnormal. if there is a ceiling and you know the ceiling, and you're up way above the ceiling.
Okay, so what if and this is what Ben had texted me yesterday about, like, what if something started to malfunction and then they don't have the tools to tell them where they are, and then they lose.
Then you go down, you land, you don't go further up.
Well,
I don't think.
But
my
you may not
mind then goes, what if is, okay, then why don't they have the tools? Did somebody mess with the tools?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're just speculating. Essay.
Situational
Situational
awareness.
awareness.
I hear you. SA, though, on TikTok is sexual assault. They won't say sexual assault.
Oh, I know. I'm just
And
like,
every time Amy's like, SA, I'm
Well,
like,
no.
ah!
because that's what Ben texted me. He's like,
Yeah.
there could have been malfunctioning and crew lost SA, and we were all like, what's SA? What's SA? He always speaks in like abbreviations,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know.
We'll move off that because that's all we know. I don't want to be a person that's creating any conversation that
No.
may be based in disinformation. So we will move on from that.
It's
Cops. I don't want to do this. I'm going to hold off on that one. I don't want to do anything. Let me hold off till we get to more dark
heavy?
stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
A man who faked death over child support is found at his girlfriend's house.
Oh,
Bro, just pay your child support. Like
It adds
faking a death.
it adds up.
Well, yeah, don't have the baby.
In Indiana. Well, you can't
Probably
go back in
didn't have-
time.
probably
though,
didn't mean
you
to.
know?
Well, you gotta suck it up.
In Indiana, Jeffrey Bell Jr. learned a hard lesson. If you're going to fake your own death, don't hide at your girlfriend's. Indiana State Police Detective Travis Baker first received reports that he had passed away. Boy, you know, he thought he was up to something. He's like, I got this perfect way to fake my death. But then you have to, like, maintain that the rest of your life.
Yeah, man.
That's a tough one.
Like you gotta go in hiding forever.
Ever. Around the same time, Baker, who was also receiving reports that Bell was alive and well and shacked up with his girlfriend, he was apprehended. He allegedly told the court that he had to attend his court date remotely because he had been out of state. During the video proceedings, it became clear to the court that Bell wasn't out of state but was in fact still in his girlfriend's place, to the point the judge ordered Bell to be taken into custody. Anyway, he was hiding in his girlfriend's place. That's a funny one. Eddie wants to know if we should start growing mustaches, and my answer is no, but I don't even know why.
Well, because everyone in country music is doing it. Riley Green's got a stash. Tucker Wetmore, Zach Top. I mean, I think Morgan Wallen probably has a stash. Everyone has a stash. So I feel like we should probably like just kind of jump in that trend and start stashing it up.
I figured Eddie would have started this trend since he's the trendsetter.
Well, the deal is like the problem with me when I grow a mustache, people start speaking to me in Spanish. Like I did it one time, and I promise at McDonald's I ordered, and they were like, "Oh, sí, order," and they started speaking Spanish. I'm like, "No, I speak English."
So if you go just a mustache, they speak Spanish, but if you go full beard and mustache, they think you're from the Middle East.
Middle East, yeah. But if I'm clean shaven, they speak to me in English.
You're the perfect spy. Think of all the places you could go and just fit right in.
Oh, dude, I could totally fit into some different cultures.
I'll watch these videos sometimes of the guys that go to Turkey to get the hair transplants, and I would think that's because a couple of guys at Barstool did it, and you thought about it. We talked about it.
Thought about it.
And so they'll pop up in my algorithm, and they're like, I landed, and it's like this luxurious car. And then they take this luxurious car to this 5-star hotel, and they're with these doctors. And in my mind, I'm thinking, everything I've read about Turkey is like crazy. And am I just being propaganded?
What do you mean, like good crazy?
Yeah, like you don't want to go to the Middle East for any reason. I saw a thing about Iraq the other day on TikTok that was, I'd never seen Iraq other than like buildings
You
being
mean
blown
like
up.
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
got a tourism?
Yeah, because what
Video?
happened with TikTok was they started to show a lot of the Chinese stuff, and people would come on and be like, I think we're both being propaganded against each other. Like, we're told that you do this,
Oh.
and we're told. And so they started comparing the two, and I started watching them. And there were Americans that were like, yeah, we live in China. We had to get, it was definitely tough to get the visa, but we live here, and here's how much we pay for everything. And I'm like, wow. Like, everything I thought about China was just terrible because of what we're being told, and everything they think about America is terrible because of what they're being told, right? Two countries against each other. Obviously, they're using the media against us. We only believe what we see, hear, read, and what we're not being told and not being shown, things that are suppressed. And so I kind of got into that for a little bit, was watching that, and I was like, huh. And then I saw this video about Iraq. I want to go to Iraq. But I just think of like buildings blown up.
Sure.
In Iraq.
War.
Yeah. And like their tourism looks pretty good. I don't want to go. But like it's not all blown up, and they have skyscrapers and stuff. Probably not for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like from what we think about these countries based on even our movies,
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
It's like the Thanos thing. They see us as the villain. We see them as the villain.
absolutely.
Wow.
Because again, that was a thing that happened when TikTok was taken down. Was a brief period of not only that, but on the other platforms, videos from that other app going viral. Where people would take them off and put them on, and it was both cultures going like, hey, I don't think we should hate each other as much as we do because our countries are telling us to.
Yeah.
Oh, so this conversation made me think of a couple I heard about last year that went viral after they wanted to visit all 195 countries.
I don't wanna do that. I get murdered in like 80.
And so they went to Iraq, and their posts about that went really, really viral. And I just pulled up one of their posts, and they're like, look, be the change you want to see in the world. The more we travel, the more we realize that countries are so much more than their governments. They're incredible people all around the world. And some of the friendliest and most hospitable people that we've ever met were in Iraq.
They get their head chopped off, they get back in time.
Well, they were never found.
That's what I'm saying.
after
Like,
that
what happened?
post.
Yeah.
No, they're back. They're
They're back. Good for them. Woo, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Because that's what I feel.
They posted it and then they disappeared.
Okay. Before we break here, what about Mexico? Because everything is cartel. Chop your head off.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that?
Mike, I've been there, dude. I mean, I've had some very pleasant experiences in Mexico, but that was a long time ago.
Like which parts? Like we're not going to the border, but do we go to like Cancun?
Mexico
or-
City.
Mexico City, man. It's just a big city, Like, are there muggins?
I'm not
Yes.
risking
Are
it.
there?
I mean,
Mexico City is a good example. It's just like you would go to a big city here
and
there's-
maybe get mugged or
there's
robbed.
crime. There's people getting
Yeah, because if you go to like Philly, Memphis,
In the wrong neighborhood, something can happen.
bad.
And you also think about the terrain in Mexico. A lot of mountains. So like people out in the mountains, there's a cartel there. Yeah, you don't want to go there. Same like you wouldn't want to go to remote parts of this country.
Now you do. There are things you do like you don't see every day, like checkpoints where you show up and everyone's got a machine gun, and
Yeah, it
it's like there's stuff like that, but they're not.
Oh,
Police
there
is
to hurt
more
you.
corrupt.
Okay.
Well, but I'll say this about Philly and Memphis before. There's also awesome parts of Philly and Memphis.
Yeah.
You don't go into the wrong place. And if you don't think there's a lot of corruption around here, just in different ways, mostly it's politicians more than it is police.
There's
Yeah.
nice places in Memphis. I'd like to see them.
Oh, dude, I was
Yeah.
in Memphis
Whoa.
2 weeks ago. It's awesome. I love it there.
Yeah, Elvis's place.
Yeah, no, in the town, like some of the suburbs.
It's nice. It's.
Yeah.
I love Memphis.
That's making me wonder what people from other countries, if they have conversations where they're like, oh man, I would never go to Chicago.
Well, yeah, they say America because all the guns. There's gun violence all the time everywhere. So they're scared of us like
I
we're
know.
scared of them.
I know. I just want to hear one of the conversations.
Well, let's tune in. Here's Iraqi 102. We're going to listen to their station right now. All right, we're going to let's take a break here.
They're playing Morgan Wallen.